Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
No one knows precisely how many objects there are in Earth orbit. Estimates range from NASA's 31,000 to just over 40,000 according to ESA, but at some point it just becomes a large number. The bottom line is there are a lot of satellites, defunct spacecraft, parts of spacecraft, and outright junk orbiting the Earth, and any one of them could cause a catastrophe. One company that is working to catalog and track orbital debris is Kayhan Space. Their SatCat program allows governments, businesses, and the general public to see and follow what is out beyond the atmosphere, while Pathfinder is their cloud-based collision avoidance service that automates conjunction assessment and maneuver planning. My guests on this edition of the Journal of Space Commerce podcast are Araz Feyzi, company co-founder and chief technical officer, and Hyun Seo, chief product officer and developer of the SatCat software. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us, Tom.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure. You've both emigrated to the U.S. before founding Kayhan Space in 2019. What kind of specific problems, or was there an aha moment in satellite operations that convinced you the industry needed automated collision avoidance? And how did your backgrounds at NASA, JPL, and Cypher prepare you for this challenge?
Well, let me start a little earlier. I'm going to go back to 1996 when I went to school with my co-founder, Siamak, who is not here today. But he was passionate about space, and that's the path he pursued. He holds a PhD in aerospace engineering with a postdoc. He did several NASA, JPL, and commercial missions. I, on the other side, got a Commodore 64 when I was a kid. I kind of fell in love with computers. So automating things using computers has been my thing since then. The joke as we were growing up was that I was good in coding, Siamak wasn't. So when in 2018 and 19, he kept coming to me and saying, hey, I see a problem. I think we're going to have a problem. You need to come help me because, believe it or not, I am writing code for this NASA mission. I was eventually convinced, and we started kind of trying to better understand some of the trends that Siamak was seeing back then. A couple of them were that the operations were, and to some extent are still pretty manual when it comes to space operations. Humans are still, in a lot of cases, in the loop, which is not going to be feasible soon for most operators. It's already infeasible for a lot of large operators. Humans just cannot be in the loop any longer. That was kind of the start of it. And then we started kind of talking to some operators and toying with some ideas, but we received a contract from U.S. Air Force back then in 2020, and we got some really good traction with some commercial operators, and we realized that this is a real problem, real opportunity, and that's how we started Kayhan.
You started with the Pathfinder for collision avoidance, and then you'd recently launched SatCat as kind of a comprehensive spaceflight intelligence platform. So walk us through that strategic decision to expand from collision avoidance to broader space traffic coordination, and how did those products integrate?
I'll start from the beginning, actually before Pathfinder, and then I'll hand it off to him to kind of talk about Pathfinder and SatCat, because those two are his or his creations. Our first product didn't have a name. It was the Kayhan product, and that focused on notification, conjunction assessment, and first maneuver and automatic satellite collision avoidance product. That's what we started with, and we had several customers, and then Hyun joined the team, and that has transformed Kayhan as we know it. So I'll hand it off to Hyun to talk more about why he created Pathfinder, why he designed Pathfinder, and also kind of tell us how that changed and we ended up with SatCat.
Sure, yeah. So Pathfinder, in terms of its capabilities, is very similar to what Araz and Siamak have started with, and it is, I guess, a layer of user experience thoughts and user interface designs added on top of that. And it solely focused on collision avoidance and space traffic management. while we worked on that, going through the design process, research, and also just as working in Kayhan in general, like taking care of government contracts, I've noticed that a lot of people in the company internally have used toolings that we don't offer to customers, but the things that customers use, but there was no like bridge in between. So taking kind of the same formula of adding, researching what a good user experience is and coming up with appropriate interfaces for astrodynamic tooling, as well as kind of as you do that, new things come about, like whether it be quality of life, like convenience updates or something completely new. The amalgamation of that is what SatCat, or rather, is how SatCat launched initially. It was a I don't want to say a shell, but an amalgamation of tools that we've been using that are all connected together, but most importantly, not just the tooling, but where the data that we've been using were all normalized and indexed. So instead of a person going to one source, converting units that they're used to, and then correlating it with another with the same process in a loop, that is all done on real time, or it's been done pre-processed already. So it's searchable, it's loggable, and all those steps are safe. So they just focus on their work or focused on finding the thing, like the data that they need. So that's how SatCat became to be. And when we looked at it from a workflow perspective, it covered much more like horizontally than Pathfinder did. So later on, we've basically added the vertical that Pathfinder was focused on into SatCat, and now we're just on lightning speed mode where we're just adding verticals, like more depth into each pillar of SatCat that we're focused on.
You have SatCat as almost, I mean, I'm not going to say it's a consumer product because it is for businesses and scientists as well, but it is something that the general public can access. Why is that important for the general public to be able to say, oh, here's this satellite and here's its orbit and here's what, do you have a lot of people that are really interested in that kind of stuff, or did you just want to make it open enough that people might become more aware of what satellites are doing in their lives?
So that's a really good question. And I think it's actually so I'll kind of tackle it from like the product, like internal perspective of why we wanted to do this and what kind of motivates us into doing this versus um I guess the outcome. So what we've noticed were just throughout the industry, a lot of these toolings are either overblown or in a, I would say, unnecessary paywall.
Mm.
It's just a lot of it is just open source of very commonly known tools that are rebranded. So, and that just historically hasn't just gotten revenue. So we decided to basically make that open and easily accessible. The real magic, it's not magic, but the real mats, I like to say, the like collision avoidance, those are obviously, behind like a sign up and a paywall. But a lot of the simpler toolings are open on purpose so that people can use it with like a layer of user experience that Kayhan, that we want people to know of Kayhan. So the reason why we did that is because Pathfinder or a lot of these other collision avoidance tools, for example, need a login, need like an association with a government, like know your customer check to use the platform. But the user, even if it's free, they don't know what to expect. If it's bad and it's free, who cares, right? But you don't really know it until you use it. So what SatCat is to Kayhan is like here, try. This is what the experience that you can expect from our software, whether it's free or paid. So it's kind of like an offering of it serves as a marketing piece, but also as like an actual useful thing that people use, and they kind of get an expectation of what we can provide as a company.
And I want to tell a different side of the story and how actually we released SatCat.
Sure.
I remember, if you're in the space industry, you know that if you want to find any information about satellite publicly, you go to these like 5, 6, very well known, data, websites that have been around for a long time. People have dedicated their time and effort. I don't want to name them because I don't want to miss one unintentionally, right? They've given back to the industry for a long time. But we had to do that. Every time we wanted to find out about a satellite, we had to go through all of that. And then Kayhan led this effort to kind of, said, hey, all this open source, and let me just make something that we can just use it ourselves so we don't have to search all over the place. And that was kind of like the internal SatCat that was created. We loved it so much. We said, we should just give it back to the community, right? It was not supposed to be actually like a product as it is today. So when we opened it up, before advertising it, before even mentioning it, before any press release, we started seeing organic traffic from all over the place. And that was kind of an aha moment that, hey, it looks like industry was actually waiting for something like this, or there was a need that that SatCat is helping fill, right? A gap that SatCat is helping fill. So that's how it started, and it's been great since then. One joke I want to make is that we talk about it and we say the only good user experience in space is in space movies. And that's kind of reality. If you're in the space industry, you realize that a lot of products and software and tools that exist are very functional, but the user experience is not necessarily great. And Kayhan has helped kind of change that. And we can talk about both Pathfinder and SatCat, how they have been awarded design awards and all that. And I think it's the first time in the space industry that we're seeing this.
So then that kind of leads me into my next question. How do you position Kayhan Space against established players like Leo Labs? It has a proprietary radar network, Slingshot Aerospace. It's got broader mission management platforms. And secondarily, do you see yourself as infrastructure, maybe a point solution, or eventually a platform?
That's a really good question. And I don't want to kind of pick one of those categories because we do a whole bunch of things, right? So first of all, just to talk about SatCat a little bit, which, by the way, is going to Windward Sunset Pathfinder soon, and all the capabilities that exist in Pathfinder have already been transitioned to SatCat, and all of it is available in SatCat. So Pathfinder will be sunset in next couple of months. But SatCat is kind of a data aggregation platform and automation platform. We ingest data from various data sources, from U.S. Space Force's high accuracy catalog to almost close to 10,000 ephemerides from satellites that have GPS on board, to commercial data that we procure and purchase from commercial data providers. And all of that gets combined together and kind of creates this most comprehensive space object catalog. Why I say most comprehensive is because when you have maneuver plans and very precise trajectories from almost 10,000 satellites on a platform, that you don't get that kind of up-to-date and live data from space objects ever, right? Obviously, I'm not comparing it to the DoD and intelligence community databases and services that they have for use cases. On just commercial and civil SSA side, SatCat is the most comprehensive space object catalog. Now, we from day one decided that we're not going to own or operate any sensors, and that was by design. And I'm glad that we made that decision. That puts us in a really good position to go to all of these data providers, some of which you named, and say, hey, I would like to purchase your data. And in reality, most of the operators, most of the data providers are ending up with just a small number of purchasers, because if you're a small operator, you really cannot go to three, four, five different data providers and purchase data from all of them, right? Because not every data type is the same, not every sensor coverage is the same, and there are clouds, there are all sorts of different factors that could prevent a single data provider from being able to collect more data on a certain object. But we are really well positioned. We're one of the only companies. I think we're probably the only company in the world, or maybe one of the very few, that are positioned in a way that we can go to everyone and say, "Hey, I want to purchase your data, and I want to fuse your data, and we have and we can optimize for every single case where to go and how to buy data to provide service to every satellite operator, whether you have one satellite or a large constellation of satellites." Right. One analogy I'll use for those who may not be too familiar with this category is that think of your phone, and you go to your map on your phone, and you have a very precise location of where you are right now, right? So do you really know if that's coming from GNSS constellation or Galileo, or it's coming from like a local triangulation? You don't, right? And honestly, you don't really care. What you care as an end user of that phone is that I want to have precise location of where I am. I don't really care where it's coming from. And that's what SatCat is, satellite operators. You don't really have to go sign all these comprehensive contracts with all these data providers. You can come to SatCat and get the data that you need as services.
You were selected for the Office of Space Commerce's TRACS data quality monitoring service, and it's kind of a significant validation of your product. Let's assume for a moment that TRACS is actually going to become fully operational, and I know that's kind of an open question right now, but in terms of that, explain kind of the scope of the contract, how it positions Kayhan as the government transitions from civil SSA to from the military, and whether you expect to be able to compete for or complement the eventual operation of the TRACS system. And again, I know we're making an assumption that TRACS is going to survive the budget issues that seem to be swirling around it right now.
Yeah, great question. Let me actually take a step back and kind of give a quick history of what TRACS is and why we're here. Space SPD3, Space Policy Directive 3, that was signed during the first Trump administration, pointed out that, well, DoD has been doing this space mission, but they've been doing this because they were the only entity that was capable of doing it. Now that we're in a position where there's a lot of commercial capability out there in this industry, we have to transition that from a DoD function to a more civil function where that agency supports civil and commercial activities, where DoD can focus on their core mission, which is protect and defend. Great idea. We believe that is the right move. And from the early days of this program, it was very obvious that there needs to be two sets of services: basic services and advanced services. Basic services are the services that government will provide to all U.S.-based civil and commercial entities. Kind of core things that DoD is already providing: conjunction assessment and also spaceflight safety, right? But there was room reserved for advanced services, and we obviously. The Department of Commerce did a fantastic job of working with industry to determine, to kind of draw that line and say, where do we draw that line to not to compete with you, but also provide the service that commercial industry needs, and that line is still in place, right? It has shifted a little bit, but we agree that that's good. And then the idea was that let's use as much commercial products as possible to provide this service, and then that eventually became TRACS program, and TRACS program has a couple of different levels. So there's these Pathfinder levels that kind of like studies, right? So hey, let's put out this solicitation and let's see if there's a commercial product can do this thing, right? But there's also an operational system that is in beta mode right now that is planned to go operational in January. So that operational system is on track to go to open up, to go out of beta, right? Whether or not the budget comes through, because it's already funded through some period into FY26. And that kind of provides opportunity, and that's basic service, right? Just basic conjunction assessment service that and conjunction notification and collision notification to satellite operators. But that's what has been around for a long time. So the way most commercial companies like us have developed our business models are around that. So assuming there's a basic model where we come in and we provide advanced services on top of that. And that's not really changing. So we're not really competing with Trax, or we never competed with DoD offering this service. So the work that we have done so far with Trax program has been part of the Pathfinder programs. I can't remember the exact number, but I think we've done maybe like five or six. So we are doing 5 or 6 Pathfinders that kind of showcase our capabilities that can become a part of operational Trax down the road.
My guests are Araz Feyzi, Kayhan Space co-founder and chief technical officer, and chief product officer Hyun Seo. And we'll get right back to the conversation. But first, please take a moment to click subscribe to be sure you don't miss any of our podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube, any of the videos from Xterra Media. And please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Whether you're a space professional, investor, or enthusiast, Paid Subscribers has first access to premium articles and podcasts focused on the new space economy. Just visit xterrajsc.com and help keep the Journal of Space Commerce independent as we chronicle, cajole, and, when necessary, critique the commercial space industry. Now let's go beyond the objects tracked, warning delivered, maneuvers generation metrics on your website. What are your key commercial KPIs that you track? The numbers of paying customers, satellites under management, recurring revenue, maneuver acceptance rate, or false negative or positive rates?
Well, I think you covered all of them pretty much, right? The ones that we can talk about publicly. Yeah. But one of the things that SatCat is and does is kind of a network, right? One of the biggest problems that space industry has today is coordination between operators. So when you have thousands of satellites flying in very close proximity to each other, it's not just about avoiding debris or avoiding objects that are not moving. You have all these satellites that are maneuvering pretty much all the time. And if I am performing a maneuver and I don't tell anyone, I could inadvertently end up in front of another satellite a day later and cause a high risk conjunction event, right? So we, as all industry operators, I think can agree that satellite operators, at least the ones that don't have sensitive DoD missions or IC missions, should share their intentions with others. And that's what we have created. One of the reasons we created SatCat for, and we have kind of made it so easy to work with, is to allow satellite operators to share with each other their maneuver plans and also coordinate with each other when they have high-risk conjunction events. Put it simply, hey, you have a high-risk conjunction event, and unless, if they don't really coordinate with each other, that, hey, I will stay, hey, I will perform a maneuver, they both can perform a maneuver that eventually increases the risk of collision instead of reducing it, right? So with that story, one of the key metrics that we have been tracking, key KPIs, is number of satellite operators that are on our platform, and obviously the number of satellites that contribute their ephemeris to Pathfinder, to SatCat. So kind of those are the kind of top 2 KPIs that we track. And if I know there are a couple other SSA platforms out there, but the number that we kind of publicly talk about it is we have close to 40 satellite operators that are on SatCat. And then close to 10,000 ephemerides that we ingest into SatCat on a daily basis. So if you're a satellite operator on SatCat, if you go to SatCat, you will see live, maximum 24 hours old ephemerides from 9,500 or so satellites today.
Hyun, I want to bring you back into the conversation real quick because Fast Company recognized SatCat's user experience design beyond UX polish. What technical capabilities are on that 12 to 24-month roadmap as far as SatCat is concerned?
Can you rephrase that question again, please? Sorry.
Well, I guess what we're looking at is what kind of things are you looking at as you develop the next version of the software, whatever that might be? What kind of capabilities do you feel like you're missing now that you want to put into the next generation of SatCat?
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. I would say they are in almost 3 different pillars in a way, or 3 different verticals. One is the operational use case that Araz has mentioned. So we have recently released a maneuver designer where an operator can literally put some inputs and the system will produce a maneuver that is usable by their spacecraft in different contexts. Like first one being collision avoidance. So we want to obviously expand that for mission operation, like operational mission usage. The second is an analysis use case. So the first thing, again, like one thing that people love about SatCat is looking at the advanced search. You can look for satellites by owner, by their orbital elements, and looking at their historical data. And you with the programs that we've done with the government, like maneuver detection and basically pattern of life. That's the kind of the key word, I guess, that people look for. We want to surface that as a technical capability, or from a technical capability to like a good user experience on the actual application. And the third would be community focused, where like currently right now there are businesses, instead of just satellites, there's actually business listings on the website. So we have like had a person who literally went through the businesses, see who got acquired by whom, and put that on SatCat. So when you look up a company, it'll say how many satellites that they have, how long have they been up in space compared to their decay time and launch time, or how many conjunctions, like general, I say low fidelity conjunctions, have they caused, how much debris versus actual operational payloads do they have. So a lot of those analytics, that's something that is done by us, but we also have a section where the user, when they sign up to their platform, can claim those businesses, similar to Crunchbase, where they can edit those informations themselves. So that's something that we want to continually expand on, where we're not just aggregating and like pulling data, but users come in, sign up, and actually push data and just claim what is theirs on SatCat.
Araz, I want to go back to tracks for just a minute, because if that system becomes fully operational and free, I mean, it's or actually included in what you pay for in your taxes. I often describe it that way. It's not free; it's included, but you're paying for it one way or the other. But then, would that force? Would that basically commoditize space situational awareness and maybe force your company to move into a more upmarket premium service? Or does government SSA remain insufficient for the kind of operational needs that satellite users and operators have?
That's a great question. And honestly, I don't think it changes anything for us. Since we started this company, the service that Trax will continue to provide, or I guess the service that Trax is providing to beta users, and they're going to open it up to all US-based operators, is pretty much very comparable to what Department of Defense has been providing since we started this company. So honestly, nothing changes for us. And yes, the SSA data hopefully, will get better, because as the space becomes more congested and contested, and as Space Force focuses more on their core mission, which is protect and defend, we have noticed that the quality of SSA data for some of the objects that are not really key for that particular mission has started to deteriorate. And the goal is to bring commercial industry data providers, some of them which you named, to come in and fill that gap, right? So the quality of SSA data will improve, which is good for our customers. But honestly, it's not really taking away anything from us. We started the company by providing more value-added services, and that's what we're doing today. We've added a lot more value-added service, and we'll continue to do that. And from what we know, as far as what has been published, we don't see any kind of competitive services that Trax is planning to offer that will compete with us. And that's, we're in a fortunate place, right? We're in America, and it's great to have this. Some other companies around the world don't have this luxury, because their governments have started competing with them directly. But we're lucky to be in America.
or their governments own them completely, and that's another conversation to be had on a different podcast. I want you to kind of maybe take a little bit of a long view here, and I can ask this of both of you, but let's look out to about 2030 in about a 5-year time frame. If Kayhan Space achieves its full potential, what does success look like?
It's a great question. I personally would love to see a world where humans are no longer in the process of or in the loop of making decisions for space operations, because that will be a very unfortunate situation. We're just too slow to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have done our job right, we in the next 5 years there won't be. I would love to see no satellite collision events. That would be really unfortunate to see one. I think if you don't see a single collision in space, I would be very happy.
Kayhan, do you have anything to add to that?
Mine was actually going to be the same. I just word it differently. I hope that basically our products now, or some of our products, are just completely outdated because everything is automated.
So when you look at things like artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence isn't really that, but that's what we all call it. But when you look at AI, is that going to be, how big of a factor are the advancements, because AI is going faster than anybody, I think, ever really imagined? How does that accelerate your timeline on that kind of success, or is that going to be as much of a factor as a lot of us think it might be?
What I will say is that it already has, in different ways. So SatCat that you see today uses AI in several different ways. Some of which is very visible. So you can go and use an AI advanced search using voice on SatCat. You see reports on SatCat that are produced by AI, and we use AI to develop SatCat capabilities even faster. So it has already started. It is here. It is very obvious that every job in this world will change, if it hasn't already, by AI. And at Kayhan, we're extremely excited about it. We are trying to take full advantage of AI, even though we don't really talk about it much. We are using it on a daily basis quite heavily, and we're investing in bringing AI into space operations. And you'll hear about that a lot more in the next year or so from us.
Gentlemen, we are out of time, but I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me today on the Journal of Space Commerce podcast. Thanks a lot.
Tom, thank you very much.
Yeah, Tom, thank you very much for having us.
Araz Feyzi is Kayhan Space co-founder and chief technical officer, and Hyun Seo is the company's chief product officer. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Journal of Space Commerce podcast, a production of Xterra Media. The executive producers are Mike Turner and Tom Patton, with production assistance from Debbie Turner. You can subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and many other popular podcasting platforms. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our podcasts or any of our other videos. You can get daily updates on space commerce by subscribing to the Journal of Space Commerce on Substack at www.xterrajsc.com. You can connect with us on LinkedIn and follow us on X at XterraJSC. And please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Whether you're a space professional, investor, or enthusiast, paid subscribers have first access to premium articles and podcasts focused on the new space economy. Just visit xterrajsc.com and help keep the Journal of Space Commerce independent as we chronicle, cajole, and, when necessary, critique the commercial space industry. Until next time, I'm Tom Patton. Thanks for joining us.
I wanna go faster, faster. Hands in the air, we're gonna crash. Searching for the answers like Galileo through his looking glass. That's for reason. A dreamer's eyes we gaze into a sense of purpose, know my view. Like finding water on the moon.